The search for the next head coach in the nation's capital is officially underway. And on today's edition of the Commanders Report, I'm going to be listing my top 10 head coaching candidates for the Washington Commanders over the next several weeks as they go throughout this search. Before I get into my list, do me a favor. Stick around for the updated interview list that we have for the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are reportedly already interested in 8 potential head coach candidates, so make sure you stick around to the end of today's video to see who is on that list. And also make sure you click that subscribe button, because once the Commanders make a decision and they hire a new head coach, we are going to have a breaking news video for you guys right here on the channel. We'll also keep you guys updated with all the guys they are interviewing, all the people they bring back for second interviews, the whole 9 yards. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest when it comes to the Commanders head coaching search. So before I get into my top 10 list here, if you guys missed yesterday's video where I talked about Ron Rivera's firing, the breaking news video, this is what I'm going to be looking for when it comes to a new head coach for the Washington Commanders. I'm looking for somebody that's got to be an excellent leader in the locker room, somebody that NFL players are going to run through a brick wall for, somebody like a Dan Campbell, somebody like a Mike Tomlin, somebody along those lines that is an absolutely great leader and somebody that can foster a great culture here in Washington, because Lord knows we have not had that in the last several, probably decades at this point. Also, I want a bright offensive mind, so you're probably not going to see too many defensive coaches on my list today, although there's a ton of great defensive minds that could be head coaching candidates elsewhere. I think because Washington, they have a high draft pick, they're probably going to be bringing in a fresh, shiny new rookie quarterback next year. I want an offensive guy to come in to help foster that development of that quarterback that you eventually bring in. And then also, I want somebody that has connections to great defensive coordinator candidates, so that not only will he have the offensive side of the ball taken care of, but also the defensive side of the ball. So without further ado, let's get into my list here. Number 10 on my list of head coaching candidates for the Washington Commanders, Brian Griese here, former quarterback in the National Football League and current quarterbacks coach for the San Francisco 49ers. And it's no secret that the 49ers have done a great job offensively this year. The quarterback coach is responsible for knowing the entire offense. And you look at Brock Purdy's numbers this year, the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. This kid was drafted Mr. Irrelevant just last year, okay? This guy's making less than $1 million living in the San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, goodness gracious, he probably has a studio apartment there in the Bay Area, and this guy's putting up these kinds of numbers with that salary, right? First in yards per attempt, first in touchdown percentage, first in passer rating, first in EPA, and then also he's fourth in completion percentage this year at 69.4, and then points above replacement, he ranks 6th with 89.2 this year. These are all fantastic numbers. I think it shows that Brian Griese does a really great job at getting these quarterbacks prepared. He definitely knows that offense inside and out. And if you want to bring the San Francisco 49ers brand of offense here to the nation's capital, I think Brian Griese is an excellent fit. Then you get to number 9 here, and speaking of kind of this new school West Coast offense that you see with the Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay trees, now we shift to Sean McVay and his quarterbacks coach, Zach Robinson, there with the Los Angeles Rams. And listen, when it comes to Sean McVay, it seems like the guys that work for him and then go work elsewhere tend to do well in the National Football League. So Matt LaFleur with Green Bay here, I mean, I think he still has the highest win percentage out of any head coach in the National Football League right now, with a win percentage of 67.5. Just got his team back into the playoffs this year. Zach Taylor, outside his first 2 seasons, which really weren't that successful, since 2021, that win percentage has jumped up to 62.1%, one of the best in football. And then Kevin O'Connell, second year, just 2 years with the Minnesota Vikings, has a really good win percentage of his own with 58.8. So these kinds of guys, the people that work on the offensive staff for Sean McVay, tend to do well. Then also Matthew Stafford, under Zach Robinson's care here, has really had a comeback season. Last year, not so good for Matthew Stafford, but he's come back with a vengeance this season. He's my pick for comeback player of the year this year, and he's even gotten the interception numbers down. Remember, even when the Rams won their Super Bowl a couple years back, he led the league in interceptions. This year, just 11. So I think that Zach Robinson, Brian Griese, these are 2 quarterbacks coaches that are doing a really good job at getting their guys prepared and getting their quarterbacks to play at a high level. And that's something I want in the next head coach here in Washington. Now, let me know down there in the comment section, do you want an offensive head coach or a defensive head coach? Let me know down there in the comments section here. Type O if you want an offensive guy, or D if you want a defensive guy. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. All right, so now we continue along the lines here of the Shanahan, McDaniel, McVay tree here with Frank Smith, the offensive coordinator there with the Miami Dolphins. And listen, he doesn't call the plays, all right? Mike McDaniel is the offensive play caller there in Miami. But guess what? Mike McDaniel, before he got the job there in Miami, he never called plays before getting the job there with the Dolphins. So Frank Smith, somebody that is obviously very close, very involved with the planning of this offense, and it is the most innovative offense in the National Football League, maybe other than the San Francisco 49ers and Los Angeles Rams at this point. Points per game, second this year, first in yards per play. We all know how explosive that Miami Dolphins offense is. And Tua Tagovailoa, their quarterback, he looked like a straight-up bust before Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith came to Miami, and ever since, he has been arguably a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League. This year, completing just about 70% of his passes, 29 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. You can maybe, get in his head a little bit if you can disguise your coverage really well on defense. He might throw an interception to you. But overall, Tua is still a very, very good quarterback, and that is largely due to this offense and the preparation that Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith give him. So I think Frank Smith is an excellent candidate as well. So coming up here, I got more head coaching candidates for your Washington Commanders. But first, I want to have a word from our sponsor here, from our friends at Fanatics, and you can get your hands on this awesome t-shirt combo when you go to chatsports.com/CommandersX2. Guys, this is an awesome combo right here. You got that short sleeve burgundy with that awesome design. And then also, summer is right around the corner as well. And I love to wear long sleeve t-shirts, but you can't really wear burgundy or black or any of those other colors during those warm months. But white, you can absolutely rock that as well. So I absolutely love this combo right here. Great prices from our friends at Fanatics. You can go chatsports.com/CommandersX2 to get this awesome Commanders t-shirt combo in your closet today. Now let's go over to Tampa Bay, where their offensive coordinator, very young guy here, Dave Canales, somebody that I've been super impressed with this season because of the career revival that he has provided for quarterback Baker Mayfield, who has really had an impressive 2023 campaign. Over the last 2 weeks, hasn't played quite as well, but overall this season, and Baker came into the year, and they were saying maybe Kyle Trask might start over him this season, but Baker has come out, and to his credit, 65% completion percentage, 28 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions. I think Baker Mayfield has done a really good job this season. He has cemented himself once again as a bona fide starter in the National Football League, and Dave Canales and his ability to foster his development this season is definitely a big reason for that. Now, another kind of Sean McVay guy here, another guy that was with the Rams, and now he's been the offensive coordinator with the Seahawks over the past couple of years, Shane Waldron. And the reason why I have Shane Waldron over guys like Frank Smith and Zach Robinson and Brian Griese is that Waldron has already called plays for 2 seasons. So not only does he have the benefit of coming from a Sean McVay type system, but also he has called plays before in the past. All right, so do me a favor here before we get to the top 5 here. Do me a favor, click that thumbs up icon and like today's video. If you want more Commanders videos throughout the 2024 offseason, the more likes we get, the more that tells the bosses that this channel is doing well. So if you guys want more videos up here on the channel, do me a favor, click that thumbs up icon right now. Now, the only defensive head coach that I have on this list, number 5, is Bill Belichick. The current head coach of the New England Patriots still has not been fired. But when it comes to Bill Belichick, I want to make a couple things clear. Number 1, I do not want Bill Belichick to be the head coach and the lead executive in the front office. That has been a complete disaster there in New England. And if he is going to come to Washington, I just want him as a head coach, and I want Josh Harris to hire a separate GM to partner with Belichick moving on into the future. Another thing that I do not want is to trade any assets in this year's draft to go get Belichick. I think there's a bunch of really good candidates, and if you want a good defensive head coach, there's a lot of other candidates on the defensive side of the ball as well. So even though Belichick would be my number 1 choice, if pretty much he's free and you don't have to trade assets to go out and get him, I really don't want to give up any of those assets that are going to be very, very important to getting this team back to where it needs to be in the future. But Bill Belichick, man, there's no doubt about it. In my opinion, he's the greatest head coach in the history of the National Football League, and he's still one of, if not the best defensive mind in the game today. With limited resources there with the New England Patriots, I mean, this defense was arguably a top 10 unit this year. They were only 15th in points per game allowed, but they were top 10 in just about every other category, and they did all that without taking the ball away all that much, just 23rd in takeaways. So he's very good at coaching disciplined football, and I definitely think that he deserves another chance, and I think that he will be a winning head coach with another program once he gets rehired. And you know what? Another good thing about hiring a potential Belichick here is I think I know who he'd bring in as his offensive coordinator, and that's Josh McDaniels. And another benefit of bringing in Belichick with McDaniels at offensive coordinator is that probably nobody else is going to take a chance on McDaniels as a head coach again. So if these two end up working their magic again in the nation's capital, it's probably going to be for an extended period of time because no other team is going to want to poach McDaniels because after his failures as head coach, both in Denver and in Las Vegas. So now we get to number 4 here, and this is definitely the dark horse on this list, and it's Kliff Kingsbury, the quarterback's coach for the USC Trojans. And for me, guys, this is really the move if the Washington Commanders are going all in on a Caleb Williams trade package to move up to number 1 with the Chicago Bears. If they want Caleb Williams to be their guy, I think Kliff Kingsbury is the perfect fit to be the head coach with Caleb Williams coming in as the franchise quarterback. And the reason for that is that he's close with Caleb Williams already, right? He was in that quarterback room with Williams for his junior season there with the Trojans. Also, this air raid type system that he brought to the Arizona Cardinals, it was a perfect fit for Kyler Murray. He was an MVP candidate for multiple seasons there in the desert. I think it would be even better with Caleb Williams here in the National Football League. And then also, he's the ultimate player's coach. You see guys around this league right now like Kyle Shanahan, like Sean McVay, like Andy Reid, guys that really take care of their players. And I mean, this guy's nickname is Coach Bro. So, this guy's got that positive culture that you're looking for in an NFL building. And I absolutely think Kliff Kingsbury could be the dark horse to land this job in the coming weeks. Number 3 on my list, Houston Texans offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, somebody that, of course, was a coordinator with the 49ers. Then he goes to the Texans this year with DeMeco Ryans. And plain and simply, he developed C.J. Stroud within one season to become a top 10 quarterback, arguably in the NFL right now. Just 5 interceptions thrown, 23 touchdowns. That ratio is absolutely incredible. C.J. Stroud has had one of the best, if not the best, rookie season we have ever seen from a quarterback in this league. And I think a big part of that is Bobby Slowick. The way that he organizes the offense is so fundamentally sound. And I would love to have this offense, that San Francisco brand of offense, here in the nation's capital for years to come. And because he has that added element of quarterback development, specifically a rookie quarterback, I really think Bobby Slowick is a top candidate for the Burgundy and Gold. Number 2 on my list, and although I think these last 2 guys maybe are a little bit harder to reach, but Jim Harbaugh, the recent national champion there with the Michigan Wolverines, is looking to come to the NFL according to multiple reports. And you know what? I do think this one is probably unlikely. Harbaugh has had a bunch of different connections to teams like the Raiders, to the Chargers, to the Chicago Bears even. And honestly, I just don't think Jim Harbaugh would want to make the Commanders his first choice because I think there's a ton of teams that would be interested, and I don't think the Commanders are really at the top of that market to land a guy like Jim Harbaugh. But he's a great culture builder, and I'd absolutely love him to be the next Commanders head coach. Then number 1 on my list, the guy that I think should be on everybody's number 1 spot on their list this offseason is Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He was arguably the number 1 guy last year, and he decided to pass on all the jobs available to go back to the Lions. And listen, this guy is obviously the number 1 guy on most people's boards, and I just don't think the Commanders have the most flattering job or the most enticing job out there. I mean, the Chargers with Justin Herbert is out there right now. Justin Fields and that number 1 pick with Chicago could be available in the coming days. Tennessee just got available. Las Vegas is available right now. So I'm just not sure if Josh Harris and the Commanders have the cachet to go out and get a guy like Ben Johnson at this point. But man, he is one of the best offensive coordinators in the National Football League right now, and I think he's going to be an excellent head coach. He's very organized. He gets people in the right positions. He gets players the ball in space in very creative ways. I would absolutely love Ben Johnson to be the head coach here for the Washington Commanders. Now, some honorable mentions here, some of these top defensive minds that I wouldn't mind being the Commanders head coach, but I certainly would probably prefer one of these offensive guys that I had on my list. Dan Quinn is somebody that I think could provide some value as a culture builder and a defensive mind. Brian Flores has done a great job with the defense there in Minnesota. Mike McDonald's one of the more up-and-coming defensive minds there in Baltimore. Mike Vrabel just got fired by the Tennessee Titans today. Could he potentially be a possibility for the Commanders if the Patriots don't hire, which seems likely at this point? And then Raheem Morris, a defensive coordinator there in LA, has really made lemonade out of lemons there with the Los Angeles Rams defense. A lot of young players, and they're playing really good football right now. Former interim head coach, but I think he deserves a full-time position. Certainly wouldn't mind if the Commanders ended up hiring him. Now let me know who your guy is down there in the comment section. Who do you want to be the next head coach of the Washington Commanders? Do you want Bobby Slowick? Do you want Jim Harbaugh? Do you want Bill Belichick? Do you want somebody else? Let me know down there in the comment section who you guys think should be the head man here in Washington for years to come. Now let's talk a little bit about the reported interest that Washington has. So some of these are confirmed. Some of these are just reports. And I'm talking about Jim Harbaugh. The Commanders are reportedly interested in Harbaugh, but they don't have an interview scheduled just yet. But all these other guys on the list, Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, Dan Quinn, Mike McDonald, Raheem Morris, Anthony Weaver, and Aaron Glenn, all confirmed interviews for the Washington Commanders in the coming days. Now, my thoughts on this list right now is that it seems like a lot of defensive guys, all right? You got Johnson and Slowick on there. Would love to have either one of those guys, but it seems like, most of these names are defensive guys, and the Anthony Weaver one there, the defensive line coach from the Baltimore Ravens, that's definitely one to keep your eye on because you don't really hear his name in most circles when you're talking about head coaching candidates. Aaron Glenn is really the only name on here where I am like, no way do you hire that guy. That Detroit Lions defense has been a problem there under Aaron Glenn for years. I don't know why NFL teams have interest in this guy. He's not a good coach. He's not a good coordinator. I don't think he deserves the job, and I would hate for him to be the next head coach of this football team. All right, that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Really do appreciate all of your support. Again, get down in the comment section. Let me know who you want to be the next head coach of the Washington Commanders. And until next time, hail to the Commanders.